I'm sure you're just as ready as I was for us to be done with this drop ceiling. And in this video, we are tackling the dining area. These ceiling tiles are very similar to the ones that we found in the living area, so they were quick and easy to remove, which we were very grateful for. And I know we've done a lot of drop ceiling removal at this point, but I was just as amazed this time as I was the first time to see how much it opens up the space just taking out that ceiling. And as much as I was in love with this house before, I love it even more now that those ceilings are taken out. I mean, just look at the space. And we found another cool medallion. Score!
Like a 1776 again, 6 again. Everyone, let's go. Like a 1776.
Hey everybody, my name is Lily and this is my house. I know in most of my videos I'm just speeding across the screen in time lapse, but I wanted to make a little video to introduce you to me, the girl behind the voiceover. The number one question I've been asked is if I have any renovation experience, and the answer is no. I'm learning a lot of this as I go along from my dad and YouTube videos and just trial and error. I grew up here in Maine and I moved away to go to school in Florida and lived there for 7 years, but I just moved back in the fall and knew I wanted to buy a house. I'll have to do a separate video on the history of the house and why I chose it, but I've been in love with this house since the first time I saw it, so I am so thrilled to be able to call it mine. I really wasn't expecting this account to take off, but I'm happy that so many of you want to follow along this crazy journey that'll be this house renovation. And let me know if there's anything else that you guys want to know or see. This weekend, Dad and I tackled the drop ceiling in this front portion of the living room. We were worried it was going to take forever just based on our experience in the bedrooms, but it ended up being a lot easier than we'd planned because the ceiling tiles themselves were actually insulated. So rather than having to take down the ceiling tiles and then the insulation above it, they each came down just individually piece by piece. So a project we expected to take us all morning took us only about 20 or 25 minutes. And after this weekend, I would say Dad and I are experts at taking down drop ceilings. In the middle of the ceiling in this room, we found a really cool medallion. It's similar to the ones that are upstairs on the second story. And here's the after. It's opened up so much more, and I kind of dig that blue ceiling.
For some reason in this house, there are shingles inside, and so today I pulled them down. The first bit I removed was in the dining area on the first floor. These were hidden by the drop ceiling before, so I had to remove that little lip that held up the ceiling before I was able to pry the shingles off. They were also not very easy to remove despite how quickly this time lapse goes. These are put up with siding nails, which, for those of you that don't know what they are, which I didn't before I ran into them doing this project, they're kind of like half nail, half screw, so the heads look like nails and they hammer into the wall, but the tip of that nail has ridges on it like a screw would. They're typically used for siding so that wind and other weather conditions don't just pull the siding right off of the house. And it's probably just what they had laying around when they did this project. As we've learned from deconstructing other projects, they were quite resourceful in this house. I love this green and pink wallpaper under here, and I was so happy to find some in pretty good condition to add to my collection. The other place we have shingles inside is in this side entry area. The space was pretty small, so it was hard for me to get a good camera angle for this first little section, but trust me, it gets better. Luckily, these shingles were just put up with nails, so they actually came down quite easily. The plaster that's underneath them is also pretty crumbly and not in as good condition as the stuff in the dining room, which I think helped me out a bit because the nails weren't so stuck into the wall. You know me, I like a clean workspace, so I was throwing the shingles onto the floor, or at this point into a bin, and then had started a pile in the living room. Please let me know if you have any ideas for crafts or projects I can do with these shingles. I have so many of them, and they're in pretty good shape, but I don't know what I'll ever use them for again. So let me know if you guys think of anything. This is another one of my favorite wallpapers in the house. It's a tealish blue and green pattern that I'd only found in the second story landing so far. It's clearly seen better days, so I can't save it, but after seeing this space with that wallpaper in it, I think I might pick something similar for the final look. What do you guys think?
Here's a quick tour of the barn as requested. I know a lot of people were really hoping I would keep the barn, but it really isn't structurally sound and it's not original to the house, so I'm still going to have it taken down. But there are companies that will come and take the barn apart with the intention of reusing the lumber, so that's what I'm looking for. I'm not just going to demolish it and throw the wood away. And here you can see the water damage where the floors rotted out. There's still a ton of stuff up here. I just haven't worked up the courage to walk out there and sort through it. I promise I will. Today just was not that day. A lot of this wood still has some good life in it. It's just not going to live the rest of its life here. So fingers crossed we find somebody who wants it. TikTok friends, I need your help. When I went to take out this next layer of flooring in the front bedroom, it turned out to be a lot more than I bargained for. These little flooring tiles are glued to particle board, which is nailed into the hardwood on the floor. And the particle board is still kind of wet from the water leak that was coming down into this room. So when I go to pry up the floor, all I can get are these little chunks, like little bit by bit. I can't pull off the whole piece of particle board at one time. So does anyone have any tips or tricks I can try this weekend to get this flooring up?
It's finally the weekend, so it's time for house projects. I'm going to take you guys on my walkthrough of the house to see what projects we have left and what we might want to get done this weekend. We're obviously not going to get to everything in 2 days, but here's the projects on my near future list. I want to open up this doorway completely and then remove this structure that connects the kitchen and living room that is no longer serving a purpose now that the drop ceiling is down. There is wood paneling and wallpaper to be taken out in the kitchen, and then I also found a doorway to the laundry room that I would love to open up. Speaking of the laundry room, the lip to the drop ceiling is still up in here, and it's in this back bedroom, so all of that needs to come down. Not an especially sexy project, but a necessary one. Oh, and I'll show you guys where this doorway we found leads to on the other side. This flooring is coming out this weekend. Thank you for all of your little tips and tricks. I'm going to try some of them out. There's some framing left from when I took the closet out. This front doorway is sealed shut for some reason, so my dad's going to try to help me open it up. And then here's where that doorway leads. So it's cut off by the framing around the stairwell. You can see one side of the framing there, and here's where the rest of it would be. In the stairwell, all of this wallpaper needs to come down. It's already peeling, so that should be fairly easy. And I hope you guys like wallpaper content, because we've got a lot of it to come down on this second floor. If you've watched my videos, you know I haven't done too much up here, but there's wallpaper in every single room. Some of it will be easier to take down than others, I think. Like this panel over here was already bubbling off the wall, so I think that'll be satisfying, but this one in the pantry is pretty well connected to the wall. In the kitchen, there's some pieces of wood paneling that need to come down. Eventually these cabinets need to come out, but I don't think that's a weekend project. The wallpaper in here is already falling off the walls, so if I leave it long enough, it would probably take itself down for me, but I'll come in and take it down. The good news about having all this wallpaper to take down is that I'm going to get some really good samples to add to my collection. In this front room, there are little bits of wood paneling to pull down. Literally, that's it. That'll be quick. And then all that's left is the third floor. This floor is pretty well cleared out already. Really, I just want to get this top of the staircase cleared out. In one of the front bedrooms, I need to take the plastic out from between the boards, and then there's a box of magazines in the landing that needs to go downstairs. I'll film it all, but let me know what you guys want to see first. The kitchen is kind of just our dumping ground for anything that needs to be taken out of the house, since it's closest to the door. But this weekend, I showed it a little bit of love and started peeling back some of its layers. All of the walls had wood paneling on them, which had been wallpapered and painted over the years. Luckily, just like in the living room, this wood paneling had only been nailed in. It was not glued to the wall, so it was fairly easy to remove once we got everything off of the top of it, like the trim from the windows and that beadboard. I was really glad to have Dad here to help me with this because he helped me through some tricky bits, and then he also went around and took off the lip to the drop ceiling that was still all around this room, which, if you guys watch my other videos, you know is not one of my favorite things to do. This pile on the counter is all the newspaper and some of the wallpaper that I've saved, and we were nervous about knocking it over, so we moved it into the living room just for safekeeping while we worked on this section that's over the microwave. I think when I go to redo this kitchen, I'm going to put in cabinetry that goes all the way up to the ceiling. Just feel like this is a lot of wasted space that could be prime storage. I should have taken some real-time video to show you how long this was actually taking. This time-lapse makes it look pretty easy, but this project took us most of the morning. We also weren't even able to get all of the wood paneling out from under these cabinets here because it is stuck in behind them in some places, in behind the countertop. So we focused on what we could get off, which was all of this over the sink. And then to give me something fun to do after all that hard work, I opened up this doorway that leads into the laundry room. You guys know I love to clean up my workspace as I go, and you can see in this video, so does my dad. So if you're ever wondering where I get that from, Now you know, I am my father's daughter. And after all that work, it was already looking better. The doorway opened up and the wood paneling down, but I wanted to remove those fake beams now that the drop ceiling is out. Luckily, they were literally not connected to anything, so they were super easy to take down. It took us about 45 seconds. And here's what the kitchen looks like now. There's still a long ways to go, but I love how it looks all opened up. A little over a month ago now, I cleaned out the third floor. But there's one bedroom that I did not get to, and I've been kind of putting it off because of just how nasty it is in between these floorboards. The third floor also has been really hot this summer, but luckily we got some cooler days, so I decided it was finally time to tackle this mess. The previous homeowner had pulled up these boards to work on the electrical to the second floor, and also to lay some insulation down in there. Along with the normal insulation mess, there was also a lot of mouse poop and torn up wallpaper, plaster that's fallen in from the ceiling, just a ton of dust. So this was a stinky job and not a particularly fun one. But it was satisfying to see it all cleaned out at the end. For the most part, the insulation rolled up really nicely, which made pulling the debris out easy. But in some cases, it fell apart or ripped as I tried to pull it up out of the floorboards, so I just ended up making more of a mess for myself, but I never could tell which way it was going to go until I went to pull it out of the floor. You'll notice I'm leaving some of the smaller debris and dust down in here. That's because the shop vac will be able to pick that up later on. Right now we have it set up to suck the water out of the buckets that are in one of the other bedrooms on this floor. But eventually we will swap the attachments out so that we can go through and vacuum all of the dust that is everywhere in this house. With all of that done, I got to cleaning up the rest of the room. There really wasn't much to clean up in here, just some wallpaper that had come off the walls, a little bit of plaster that had fallen down over the years, and a couple of curtains. I also removed any of the wallpaper that was hanging into the space or came off the wall easily, which was quite a bit of it in this room actually. Side note, I think this is my favorite room in the house. It's always so bright in here, it has so much character, and I really just love the vibes. When the house is finished, I think this will become a creative space for me. I love to craft and to play music, and I think this room would be perfect for all of that. The last step in here was just to sweep up the floor, and I know a lot of this the shop vac would have picked up, but for some reason, a freshly swept floor just makes me feel like I accomplished so much more in any space. So I don't ever mind taking a couple of minutes just to get the visible chunks and dirt off of the floor. And then here's the after. Like I said, there's still some debris and things in there to come out, but compared to where we started, this is a major improvement.